Alright guys, I'm back with another chapter in 2 Kings. We're in 2 Kings chapter 15 where the header reads, Uzziah rules in Judah. We'll get right into it. Uzziah son of Amaziah began to rule over Judah in the 27th year of the reign of King Jeroboam II of Israel. He was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 52 years. His mother was Jechaliah from Jerusalem. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. But he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burnt incense there. The Lord struck the king with leprosy, which lasted until the day he died. He lived in isolation in a separate house. The king's son Jotham was put in charge of the royal palace, and he governed the people of the land. The rest of the events in Uzziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Uzziah died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Jotham became the next king. Zechariah son of Jeroboam II began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 6 months. Zechariah did what was evil in the Lord's sight, as his ancestors had done. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam son of Nebat had led Israel to commit. Then Shallum son of Jabesh conspired against Zechariah, assassinated him in public, and became the next king. The rest of the events in Zechariah's reign are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So the Lord's message to Jehu came true. Your descendants will be kings of Israel down to the 4th generation. Shallum, son of Jabesh, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. Shallum reigned in Samaria only 1 month. Then Menahem, son of Gadai, went to Samaria from Tirzah and assassinated him, and he became the next king. The rest of the events in Shallum's reign, including his conspiracy, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. At that time, Menahem destroyed the town of Tappuah and all the surrounding countryside as far as Tirzah. Because its citizens refused to surrender to the town, he killed the entire population and ripped open the pregnant women. Menahem, son of Gadai, began to rule over Israel in the 39th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 10 years, but Menahem did what was evil in the Lord's sight. During his entire reign he refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam son of Nebat had led Israel to commit. Then King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria invaded the land, but Menahem paid him 37 tons of silver to gain his support in tightening his grip on royal power. Menahem extorted the money from the rich of Israel, demanding that each of them pay 50 pieces of silver to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned from attacking Israel and did not stay in the land. The rest of the events in Menahem's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Menahem died, his son Pekahiah became the next king. Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began to rule over Israel in the 50th year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 2 years, but Pekahiah did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam son of Nebat had led Israel to commit. Then Pekah, son of Remaliah, the commander of Pekahiah's army, conspired against him. With 50 men from Gilead, Pekah assassinated the king, along with Argob and Arai, in the citadel of the palace at Samaria, and Pekah reigned in his place. The rest of the events in Pekahiah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Pekah, son of Remaliah, began to rule over Israel in the 52nd year of King Uzziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 20 years, but Pekah did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam son of Nebat had led Israel to commit. During Pekah's reign, King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria attacked Israel again, and he captured the towns of Ijon, Abel Beth Makkah, Genoa, Kadesh, and Hazor. He also conquered the regions of Gilead, Galilee, and all of Naphtali, and he took the people of Assyria as captives. Then Hoshea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekah and assassinated him. He began to rule over Israel in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. The rest of the events in Pekah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Jotham, son of Uzziah, began to rule over Judah in the 2nd year of King Pekah's reign in Israel. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Jotham did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight. He did everything his father Uzziah had done, but he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. He rebuilt the upper gate of the temple of the Lord. The rest of the events in Jotham's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. In those days the Lord began to send King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel to attack Judah. When Jotham died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and his son Ahaz became the next king. And so that is the end of chapter 15 of 2 Kings, guys. And so I'm not going to lie. I know that these are just historical reports, basically, on what the expectations or what the events were that transpired during these kings' reign. And there's even greater detail, and it refers to other books, which is super interesting. Just from a historical standpoint, the fact that it was kept in such detail, the fact that it would even reference other literature is, I think, pretty impressive. But I'm not gonna lie, these last couple of chapters have just been super discouraging. Seeing people continue to fall and make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, while it's fantastic from a reflective standpoint, and it's easy to make those connections, because I see that in myself. And so to see it play out in men with much greater power and influence that I have, but the fact that the lineage is direct from just there's so many people that had such a fantastic relationship with God. It's such a great testament to how important it is to teach the next generation how to be and how to act and how to have that personal relationship, because how quickly we can fall from grace. One generation can ruin it for several generations to come simply by not having that relationship with God. And the interesting part about that is oftentimes the generation in which that takes place in, while a father's not bound by the sins of the son, and the son's not bound by the sins of the father, the son is not bound by the sins of the father, there is some connection to the choices that the next generation makes if you didn't teach them what it was like to be with God. And what's interesting about David and Solomon is where they continue to reference that. So that town point is super important. And we see that connection that Solomon and David had as far as the closeness in relationship. The interesting part about it, or maybe the most discouraging part, is, did those things not continue to happen and great influence wasn't had because they were men of multiple families, multiple wives? How much time, how much love and discernment could they could they share with their children if they were just having a bunch of kids? And the only one that would come to power would be either the most ambitious or ruthless, or simply the oldest, and had nothing to do with the relationship with God. It had nothing to do with the relationship with the current king. It had, and that both physical and spiritual. And so it's super interesting, and it talks about, obviously, how God just guides everything, and we can only see it through the Spirit, because if you see it through the flesh, it just looks like chaos, because it's us. We're seeing reflections of ourselves that we've repeated over and over and over again, so it just looks like chaos. but there's such a beautiful design in it. You can see that if everyone just did exactly as they were told, we wouldn't have all these years of despair. It would be father teaching son, son teaching the next generation, and so on and so forth. But there's not. Eventually, a godless person or someone interjects and tries to cut the line, and they want to have the power, and because they don't see the relationship with God as a relationship, they see power and favor. They see the result, and that's not the point. Which is why those people that when it says, he didn't do the things that were pleasing in the sight of the Lord, say he's always fallen short. It doesn't matter what he did, how many wars he won, he continues to fall short. And so therefore himself, whoever he's leading, remains separated from God. And therefore ultimately he's going to lose. And we see that play out now for several chapters, not just and several books, entire books, not just First Kings, Second Kings. It's been happening since the beginning of time. The rise and fall of nations, those that kept true and stayed with the Lord and wanted to follow his word, we see success however long it's had. And those that don't, we see it fall however long it takes to fall. And so, on that note, I'm going to head out. Have a good night. God bless. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'll be back for chapter 16 of 2 Kings tomorrow, where the header reads, Ahaz rules in Judah. Have a great night. God bless, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.